Hi everyone, I hope you've had a good international break and have made the most of the downtime. I actually wasn't going to make a video during the international break. Was going to consider doing a review, but then from the wildcard teams that I've seen on social media, the illustrations, I've yet to be convinced on any, and it seems like a lot of FPL managers are simply chasing points that have already been scored from the previous weeks. Now, just want to make it absolutely clear, I am not going to wildcard in game week 5, just due to the number of hits that I've taken. And in terms of the players that I want, I'm just, yeah, a handful of moves away from a potential ideal team myself. So, literally, this is completely off the cuff. I'm going to just show you the kind of players that I'd pick, and I hope that I can get in budget as well. So, I've just unselected all of my team, and let's just restore the obvious players. So, yep, I want to have Haaland in my team. Saka will be in the team as well, as will be Mbeumo, and Stupinan will make the cut as well as Chilwell and Udogie as well. So already some of these players I already have in my team. So you can see that I've got no interest of doing a radical overhaul, as it were. I'll also include Kabore as well and Fernandez as well. So I'll explain the reasoning behind each of those picks as well, and Alvarez. So I think the main thing that FPL managers are really missing out on, those that are wildcarding, is that we've got the Champions League football coming up now. So we've got to really factor that in as well. And can you really justify picking a player who is just about hitting par or is delivering below par when you've got players who are not playing in European competition this season, such as Chelsea and Spurs assets? And is there a comparison with their players potentially matching or scoring the equivalent premiums that I've mentioned there? So look, Estupinan, he's got ridiculously high ownership, 64%. We know what he can do. He's got a tricky run of games with those red block fixtures in game week 5, game week 8 and 9. But then for the most part, you'd want to keep him in. And you're not having Estupinan just for clean sheets. You're having him also for the attacking prowess. Also, Ben Chilwell, no European commitments, relatively high ownership, and hopefully he'll have some double-digit scores in the weeks ahead as well. And Udogie with Ange Ball just makes perfect sense to have him in as well. Again, one of the players, you're not having him for the clean sheets, but the attacking prowess. And with Kabore, it's really just like a dud sub option. Of course, we've got that double game week for Luton in double game week 7 as well. So could potentially play him in one of those, well, in that fixture. And for the missing defensive slot here, I've decided that I'm actually going to pick another dud sub player as well. And in this case, it's a Burnley player and it's a 4.0 starter. And I'll just make sure he's here. It's Darkhil. So he started Al Darkhil, who started every match, played every minute. Well, not every minute, I beg your pardon. They obviously had the blank in game week 3, in game week 2. So I'm going to keep him in the hope that if I want to potentially start him in game week 5, it's an option. And just looking at the fixtures as well, for Estupinan in game week 7, I beg your pardon, Aston Villa away. So I could potentially bench him, and then you've got Chilwell in game week 7 as well. He's got Fulham away, probably would start him, and then Udogie in 7, Liverpool. So potentially one or two of those 4.0 players could start just for that double game week. Now, when it comes to the midfield, Saka just is ridiculously priced, and you can't have all those Arsenal midfield assets. I can't really justify the double ups and the triple ups that I've seen across social media. Of course, it's going to work every now and then, but the reality is you're kind of like maxing out your midfield spots by having Saka, Odegaard, and Martinelli. So I think Saka is the go-to Arsenal midfielder from all of them. And Mbeumo, focal point of the attack with Tony not in the team. He's ticking away nicely with his points. Yeah, he's got, what, 2 red block fixtures coming up, but relatively reasonable run up until game week 11. Makes perfect sense to have him. Had Raheem Sterling in my team, and I had Rashford in my team as well. But if I was going to wildcard, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want to have some upside. Clearly, if you're wildcarding, you're chasing, and there are certain combinations and certain players that are still relatively low owned. So with Sterling, I mentioned he hasn't got Champions League football, but then from what we've seen with Poch Ball and Ange Ball, it's clear that Ange Ball has adapted relatively quickly, and we can see consistent results. So it makes absolute sense if I had to pick between getting Maddison and Son in and deselecting Sterling and Rashford. I'm willing to do that. With Fernandes, he's just there for X-Mins. You could make a case that actually get rid of Fernandes, have Rashford in instead, but it really just came down to X-Mins, penalties, and also with Manchester United, like they just that on one hand, like with the loss of certain attacking players, the Rashford, you'd expect him to step up. So they are lacking in depth as well. So that could be a plus. It could be a negative. But from my perspective, if you're really going to wildcard, go to Spurs, get the triple up. It just makes sense. So if if Maddison, well, Maddison obviously has proven his worth, makes sense at 7.8 million. And if Son continues to play as a de facto striker, it makes complete sense as well. And even if he doesn't, and it's let's say Brennan Johnson up top, fair enough. But Son has clearly shown what he was able to do when he played up top, scored a hat trick. Obviously, he won't score a hat trick every week. It might be somewhat of a risk having the Spurs double up in midfield, but my argument basically is that with those 2 players and Ange Ball, you've got to go for the upside. And there's just so much potential there. And if it goes wrong, obviously you can just downsize to a Rashford or a Sterling, so forth. Coming onto the attack, Haaland, no nonsense. Alvarez, I picked him in my team relatively early on, and I was impressed with the number of minutes that he's been getting, the number of starts he's been getting as well. And with Champions League football, it'll be interesting to see if he gets managed minutes during midweek or if he actually plays more during that time as well. And the concern is if he's getting heavy minutes during Champions League football, then his Premier League minutes could be affected. We don't know what will happen for the time being, but I think for now, just because of the form that he's been in, it just makes sense to have him as a placeholder, and you can ship him out if the minutes become an issue. And lastly, for the final striking spot, I hope I've got enough budget in the bank. Oh, I haven't picked my goalkeepers yet, so make sure I do that. So look, we'll go for a Luton striker. It's a double game week. You've got to attack that double game week. I know it's not the most amazing one that's available for this FPL season, but look, 5.5 million. If Luton are going to score, Carlton Morris will be banging in the goals. Generous run of games. You could potentially start him beyond double game week 7 as well for some of those fixtures, or just have him as a sub 1, probably an expensive sub 1. But I'm of the viewpoint that 3-5-2 is the optimal formation. But then if you see that he's getting regular goals, then you might switch to a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-3 there. So on to the goalkeepers now. So Turner, X-Mins is an issue. Edison simply is not worth it at 5.5 million. So Areola has been the standout 4.0 goalkeeper. So in he comes in that spot, 4.1 million now. And lastly, I've got 5.6 million in the bank. So I could, if I want, get Edison back in, but I'm not. I feel that I'm missing some sort of Arsenal defensive cover. And the defenders, I know that I got done over by picking Gabriel at the start of the season. And I just feel right now I can't really justify too many defenders. And the narrative that I'm seeing in this early part of the season is that there haven't been a lot of clean sheets. So I'd only want to start 3 defenders. So I need an Arsenal defensive cover as well. So in comes Ramsdale. There's not really much to choose from the goalkeeping front, and paradoxically, Vicario from Spurs and Ange Ball, we'd expect them to concede more. If I'm not mistaken, he's right up there as the #1 goalkeeper. But then you don't really want to pick. There he is. You don't want to pick Vicario in a Spurs triple up. You want Udogie, Maddison, and Son. That is the go-to one, just due to the attacking prowess. So in comes Ramsdale. Just 5.0 million. I can just about justify that. Arsenal defensive cover. Only 2 red block fixtures between game week 5 up until game week 17 as well. So yeah, you're not going to get fireworks there. I wish I could justify a 4.5 goalkeeper, but I can't really at the moment. So that is the team. So that's 0.6 million. I am not going to play my wildcard. I want to stress this now that I did seriously consider wildcarding prior to the end of game week 4, but I feel that if I'm probably a couple of moves away from, if I wanted to -4, then I'm probably a lot closer to my ideal team by doing that than radically overhauling it. And I'm not going to use the wildcard for the sake of wildcarding either. I don't think there's a right time or a wrong time to wildcard as well. If you've had a bad start, you haven't got the players that you feel are going to potentially do well in the weeks ahead, then ultimately wildcard. But this is the illustration that I'm proposing. And in this illustration, you've got essentially 2 goalkeepers, but primarily Ramsdale would be a starter. You've basically got 3 starting defenders, and realistically, Al-Dakhil and Kabore, you'd only start them probably in double game week 7, perhaps one or the other. But then beyond that, they're just stud subs for your team. And then you've got a very strong power 5 here. Clearly, there are some misses here as well. I haven't got any Liverpool attacking cover. I don't think I can justify that right now in my team. And if I wanted to really shoehorn in one Liverpool player, it would have to be Mohamed Salah. That's the one player I'd potentially consider getting in. But then if I get Mohamed Salah in, I can't get Son. I can't get Maddison. May not even be able to get Mbeumo or an Alvarez. So Mohamed Salah, I know he's in sensational form. He's got like this fantastic record of, I think, of the last 16 games, he's got like 15 goal involvement. So he is an in-form player, but you can't have them all. That's the that's the reality of the situation. So also, look, in points, I was expecting Mohamed Salah to be up there in the top 5 or 6. He seems to be getting points every game week, but look at the points 5, 5, 5, 8, and of course he'll be getting double-digit scores as well. And you look at the run of games; it does look very generous for Liverpool. But for now, at least, I would like to have a balanced team, and that balanced team will not have Mohamed Salah in this illustration. So there you have it. As always, if you're able to like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Or if you simply want to buy me a coffee, the link is in the description below. And there we go. So all the best, whether you're wildcarding or not in game week 5. Take care and all the best. Thank you. Bye.